So I'm going to give you an overview of so we move it forward by this, by the arrows, right? Yeah. So I'm going to give an overview of sea swap, pretty much right where Jeff left off, and just give the highlights. And then through the week, we're going to be talking about some of these highlights in more depth. So this is just it's like skimming the surface. So as Jeff said, this is a fisherman-driven project. I was a humpback whale researcher and did killer whale and humpback research, and the fishermen came to me through the manager, the groundfish manager, Tori O'Connell, and said, we have a problem, and you're a whale biologist that lives in Sitka, so can you help us solve it? Well, to be totally honest, I had no idea there were even sperm whales in the Gulf of Alaska. So I was working in the coastal areas, and they were offshore. But it's been a great experience. It's been a wonderful, eye-opening experience for doing research and having a real applicability and working with a group of fishermen that are absolutely the eyes and ears of the ocean. So it has many partners and collaborators over the years. Just an amazing group of people have come together to make this happen, from NOAA to the Longline Fleet to independent fishermen and other researchers as well. This is a study area in the Gulf of Alaska. You can see the shelf break is really, really close to Sitka, and that's what makes it ideal for us to work there. The shelf break is where the longline fishing occurs, right where it drops off between a very narrow band. It goes from, let's say, 800 meters to 1,200 meters in like nothing flat. It's just a very, very short, and it's very steep. And this is Sitka. This is the port where we work out of. This is the boat, one of the three of the 5 boat harbors in the channel in Sitka. It's often called the Paris of the Pacific. It's a very steep-sided rainforest, mountainous. Alexander Archipelago is an archipelago of 1,000 island chain, and we are in the outer coast. So one of the things we're looking at is avoidance as a means of reducing depredation, and that's been touched upon here throughout the morning, and it's, I think, going to be a theme throughout our conversation, because I think this is where we are headed. So are some whales more likely to depredate the others, and can we predict where we will see these whales? And this is like this is where I'm going to end up probably at the end of the week, but I wanted to bring it up here so we could be thinking about it. So sperm whale sightings. This is some data that was collected by NOAA a long time ago, and up until 1995, and we're just wondering, why are we having this problem, as Megan and Jeff have explained, why do we have this problem in the Gulf of Alaska, and it doesn't really occur with the sperm whales in the Bering Sea? Well, historically, from the whaling data, those whales are primarily squid eaters, and our whales are deep water fish eaters, including sablefish. 68% of their diet was fish. So they are feeding what is normally their food. So they're not doing anything different other than maybe having the longliners help them catch their fish. So this is a sperm whale. They're everywhere, geographically widespread. Our whales that we have seen following these longliners are males. We do get reports of smaller whales. There have been females sighted in the Gulf of Alaska in recent years, and historically there were a lot of females. Thousands of females were taken out of the North Pacific, and they just haven't rebuilt their populations. And it's probably been a fractured population that is probably not a normal thing for just only males to be in the Gulf of Alaska. Or perhaps it is. I mean, I don't think we really have a true picture of really what the sperm whale demographics were historically. But we do know now we have primarily males following the longliners, interacting with the longliners, and also they're genetically from everywhere. They're not, the genetic work that we've done, they are not related, and they are not from the same genetic population. So it's a mixed stock, which makes it even harder to manage. So sablefish are very big. They're up to 1 meter. They're very high in oil, high value. One of the most lucrative fisheries in Alaska. If not, Jeff and Megan might be able to tell us if it is the most lucrative. It's really up there. It's so it's a very cost rich fishery for depredation to happen to. Even though it may happen in a small percentage, it really has an impact. So we pretty much all know what depredation is. This is what the fish look like. If they're shredding fish, there's sometimes heads and lips left on the hooks, and sometimes they just bite halibut and let it go. Sometimes they take halibut, but those are the primary fish that they take. Sablefish primarily, and secondarily halibut. Although halibut may be increasing in popularity with the sperm whales. Jury's still out on that one. So as just mentioned, this is Sea Swap, the eyes and ears of our ocean. This is our fleet, the citizen scientists of the Gulf of Alaska. And early on, we created this logbook form, and it pretty much was what I think John described earlier today. How many whales, what are they doing? Are they the set, soak, or haul? All the little details, how much catch did you, how many fish did you catch, what pounds? So it really helped us get an idea of what the picture was. When we first started, or I first started this, I had no idea if there were 5 whales or 500 whales out there. We heard it all, you know, just everything what the whales are doing from, and what the fishermen were doing to mitigate it, and what they believed worked, from crystals to playing rock music to, you know, hauling your gear faster, like Megan said, whatever it takes. So this is a picture of the sablefish. You can actually see a sablefish there if you can, right along the edge of the boat. It's coming up over the roller. This is what it looks like on a longline vessel. And we basically have had 3 phases of Sea Swap. We had that big, large perspective. Who's out there? Where are they? And they gave the fishermen logbooks and cameras. Then we entered this acoustic component. Essentially, we just narrowed down to a really, from understanding the big picture to a very narrow focus, and that's where we are right now. We're testing deterrence, working with the fishermen, and really looking at what may work. And we've been at this 10 years, and we have some ideas what works and what absolutely doesn't work, and we'll be talking about that later. So one of the things the fishermen did along with us, we got those photographs, and we were able to build a catalog and get a population estimate for the whales that are following the vessels. And it ends up our estimate, we have a catalog of about 115 to 120 whales. Turns out the population estimate is somewhere between 124 and 153 whales using a Bayesian credible model. I won't go into the details of that right here. But it's also the whales in the eastern Gulf are part of a bigger population in the whole Gulf of Alaska because they've been seen roaming. Whales photographed off Kodiak are seen off Sitka. We see whales off BC that are our whales as well, and our whales that tagged whales have gone down to Baja. So it's pretty, it's not just an isolated population working the area, the fishing grounds off Sitka. About a third of the whales, Sea Swap whales, that we photographed in the eastern Gulf have been seen on the sablefish surveys as well. So part of the data that the fishermen provided for us is we were able to figure out what the peak timing is of depredation, at least during these years. May, June, and July are the peak season. That's also kind of the hot fishing times as well. These fishermen are diversified. They go and do other things other times of the year. So essentially the fishery starts in March, and about April, May, and June is the peak time when the depredation occurs. We also were able to build a discovery curve, and that's just building your cumulative total of new whales that you see every year. And we're still adding whales to this graph. So last year I think we had 5 new whales. It's not a lot of new whales every year, but it certainly hasn't leveled out. So we are getting new whales. Where they're coming from, if we just missed them, who knows? But there are additional whales coming into the population, or into the whales that are following the vessels. I'm going to say following the vessels or around the vessels, because not all, as a theme for this morning, is not all whales are created equal in terms of how they depredate. There's some very serious depredators and some whales that absolutely seem to just be hanging and doing things on their own and not interacting with the gear at all. So we also had the percentage of sets out of 124 sets where whales were at the set, soak, or haul, or they joined the haul, and about a third of these sets had whales near their vessel at some time stage of the fishing. And the haul was a hot spot. The set and the soak were less likely, a lower percentage of whales at those, but they still stayed there. There were still some whales. If you set your gear and the whale stayed there, it would you'd come back and it'd be just sleeping near your buoy. And I don't know if you guys find that the same thing. It's just snoozing, waiting for you to come back. They're very patient. They have a lot of time in their hands, and they can just dive down and feed on fish normally. So they're just kind of just seeing if somebody will come back. So we've also found that we have some of the most 10 or 12 of our whales are very serious depredators. We have this poster here we handed out, the 10 most unwanted whales. They, as I said, they're not created equal, and there are some whales that we have found through this analysis, this association analysis, that are seen together, and they're also seen near vessels together. So just like what Paul's been finding and other people, that these high latitude males are not the lone range bachelor males that you hear about. in the northern latitudes. They have a strong social structure. I think it's beyond my even wildest dreams how they communicate and how they get along together. We see the same whales in the same place at the same time of year. So this is what the benefit of long-term monitoring has given us. So one of the areas that we've really delved into is acoustics. When I first started this project, Jonathan Gordon, who was our acoustical person with us at that time, it took us so long to get funding, he had to go do other things. He's coming back to our project with Toad Array this year, though. And he said, you're only going to solve it through acoustics. And Aaron Thode is our oceanographer from Scripps Institution of Oceanography. He's been working with us, and we've really done, we started with acoustics, we've done all the other stuff too, but acoustics has been our backbone of this project. These are some of our recorders that we're using now. We started out with the big clunky recorders, like Lauren Wild, who's a graduate student on this project, grew up in Sitka. She's holding one of the Gen 1 recorders, and these are Gen 2 recorders, the little ones. You see they're color-coded. We gave them names to begin. I think we had all the Peanut and Snoopy characters, and then when we started losing them, it was really heartbreaking for us. So we have a policy, we don't name our recorders anymore. But we color-code them, and they go out in pairs. So now they're like the Packers and the whatever sports team there are, so we still ended up naming them, but not quite as serious if we lose Lucy or Linus. It was kind of tough there for a while. So I forget who, I think Lucy held on the longest. So one of the things we learned with these recorders is that everybody thought it was the hydraulics or whatever. What's a cue? What's a dinner bell that these vessels are using? And it really is the engine cycling, the cavitation in and out of gear. Those bubbles in the water are really, really loud acoustically, and they travel a long ways. And if you have a hiccup in your engine, or if your shaft isn't right, you have some little wobble, that's really loud as well. So if a fisherman, we tell a fisherman, clean as prop as possible. There's other things you can do to quiet your prop, reduce cavitation. You can haul in a circle haul, not put your engine in and out of gear. Not many fishermen can do that, but if you can, you can avoid sperm whales coming to your boat. Once you get them, it's over. But by not having them know that you're going in and out of gear to start with is a really good strategy. So we've given the fishermen all sorts of tips that we've learned acoustically. Set your gear, go shallow. You're not going to your sound isn't going to transfer as far in shallow water versus deep water. There's all sorts of tricks like that. And the fisherman wants to do it. It takes them longer to set the gear, but it's their choice. Basically, we give them tools in a toolbox, and they can choose the ones they want to use. So, acoustic cue. The engine cavitation, this is what it looks like on a sonogram. You can see it's pretty noisy acoustically. And how do they use those sounds for foraging and navigating? This is a, see if this sounds, if this doesn't play, people are interested, I can, Thermo Click. Everybody's heard this? Click. Can you hear it again? They're incessant. They don't stop ever. They do, but. You hear that? Choo-choo, choo-choo? That is an echo, and our ocean bottom is really acoustically reflective. It's really wonderful because it really gives you an added tool in your toolbox to be able to figure out where that whale is in the water column. With one click, we can figure out where that whale is positioned in the water column because of that echo. So, did it not play? I heard it great. Try it again. I have lots of recordings of clicks if you want to hear them. When I first sent this to Aaron, the tape, he said, now do you speed that up in quarter time? Because it sounded literally like a jazz drum. So they get really excited when they're around the vessels. They click faster than they do normally. Oh. No, it's not. Everybody hear it now? Yeah. Now you've way tuned it down a bit. So that was a click. That's the sound that's the loudest, one of the loudest sounds any mammal makes on Earth. It's a sperm click is I love this fact, is 1,000 times more intense than a thunderclap received at ground level. They're really, really loud. So once they start honing in on their prey, they focus their energy, and it doesn't broadcast so much energy widespread. They focus it into a narrow vision, or you might want to call it that, and they make a creak or a buzz. It's going to get... So this is... That's a long one. So that's what they're doing when they're honing in on their prey. And this creek, we believe, is positively an attempt at prey capture. Whether it's always a successful prey capture is another thing, and that's one of the things we need to really focus on. And then there's clangs, slow clicks. We don't have codas. Codas are done in the tropics. We have one coda, I think. They do not do codas in the northern latitudes, higher latitudes. 5 seconds later, you're going to get another one of these. There's other whales in the background. Do you guys hear these? Do you hear clangs? They're really interesting. Lauren Wild did this for her master's thesis, looked at all of our data for clangs. And they're great. I love hearing those clangs out there. They're just... And she found that they're primarily on, and some other researchers, they're primarily happen on the ascent. So, and why? You guys have any speculation? She had some ideas. Don't think anybody really knows the purpose of those clangs, other than long-range distance communication and making connections with other whales. So, Delphine Mathis she's back in France right now. She's a student of Aaron's. She looked at a lot of our tag data. There's B probe data to look at what the whales are doing in the water column during depredation. This right here is a B probe on a sperm whale. She found there was shallow dives and very high creek rates, and we also have some deep dives. So right here, let's see them in the purple. So you can see the column here. Let's see, where's the pointer? Is it this? The top one? So right here. So that's a whale doing a normal foraging dive, going down deep. And the pink is a depredation event. There's a big, deep dive there. So before this, we really weren't sure that they were feeding off the line deep. And we still weren't 100% sure here, but there's some other evidence that shows that we're fairly certain they feed from the bottom to the top. And then after the depredation, the whale went back to normal foraging dives. And these whales right here, just basically after depredation, just went down and went to sleep. For the most part, they put so much energy into depredation. Once a set is hauled and the anchor's back, they just go off and just snooze for a long time. And we found that out using B probes. And this is from a fisherman. It's echo sounder. He has it on his computer, and it's a really fancy one, so it's very high resolution. I mean, you can basically see what the bottom is. And so this is a little bit hard to see. This fuzzy stuff in the middle is some prey layer, some krill or something like that, not the target. This longliner had 10 whales around him. We got to him, we were satellite tagging. We said, can we work the whales around your boat? And he said, sure, because I just caught 10 fish. If you're here, maybe I'll catch more because they'll come over to you and you're thinking you're a longliner. And that's actually what happened. We also gave him beer, so they really liked that. We surprised them with a growler of beer on their end of their longline set when they hauled, so they are our friends forever. So what we found, though, is that we could see the whale at depth. This line, like here, this squiggly line, that's a whale right there. And the anchor had just been hauled off the bottom. So this whale, and this is the long line right here, the blue dotted line. So the whales are just, we could just see them on the sonogram. It was like watching sonogram or sounder TV. I was just mesmerized taking pictures by what the whales are doing around the long line. It was really amazing. And the amazing thing, and I don't know if you guys see this or not, but before, like 20 minutes or 30 minutes before the end of the set, the anchor's hauled, all 10 whales disappeared. All 10 of them. This happened over and over again. Boom, they're gone. Where'd they go? And so the anchor comes up. They go to the next end of their set. Guess what's there? All the 10 sperm whales are waiting right there. So how did they know which end of the set to go to? So this, I'm right, who's ever said it today, they're complicated and we just don't have a clue what they're doing out there. They're way smarter than I ever imagined. So some of the conclusions that for delphines, this is published data. It's just the highlights of it. is deep depredation, there's shallow depredation, and the creek rates are higher on shallow and deep depredation than during natural foraging dives. So this is what we figured we can use acoustics in terms of the way to use it as a metric, and we're trying to really fine-tune this use of the metric creek rate as at least as a proxy for attempts at depredation, for how often they're actually, whether they're successfully capturing their prey. We're going to say for the most part they probably are. However, there's some complications because those really long creek rates, we believe they're taking more than one fish. So one creek doesn't always equal one prey capture. So in terms of the kind of the thinking during this next few days of what are our tools that we can actually think and talk about to develop a good metric, that may be one of them. In the future are these small pseudo recorders. They're really small, they're great. They're made in New Zealand, I think. And yeah, I'm pretty sure because I bought one from the guy in New Zealand. They're very small, and they last as long as our bigger recorders. They're really great. I don't know if you guys are using them at all, but they're really nice. And so we also use cameras. Our first camera was a big clunky Sony camera that we put on a long line. We had a long line, and we couldn't put it on the line while it's naturally foraging, so we brought up a string, put the camera back down for 40 minutes. That's all the tape would last. And this is well, I don't know if you guys have seen this or not, but oh no, it's not going to play. More clicks, more than one whale's there. It's focusing in on the camera, which has a hydrophone in it, because the camera had air space in it. You can see lines wiggling there. Oh, you can't see the video. Oh, you should get. Oh, where is it? You should have told me. It's on my screen. Why isn't it on your screen? Yeah, but it's embedded into there. It should show up. But hey, I can do it. Okay. Yeah, because it's get it started here. You know what to touch? Maybe this? Or worried about what to touch here. Did that do it? Okay. Videos are so tricky. Now, how to make it go? Maybe right here. You know, I can just play it off my disk, off the folder too. That's what I was going to do. Just go right to the folder. Yeah. So this was quite a few years ago. So there. He actually stops clicking when he's on the line, and he moves up towards the other fish, and then the other one pops off, and you know he's resuming clicking, and we're pretty much, there's another hydrophone, and we're able to link that whale to going after the fish, although we didn't see it on the camera. So that opened our eyes to what these whales can really do. So get out of that and back to the presentation. We had to disguise it and get back to the. I will wrap up real quick. We had to wrap it in rockfish and line to disguise it from the. We did it at first, and they just went for. They basically freaked out with the camera based on its own on the long line. So what this gave us was a whole new idea of what these guys could do. the scale of the problem is totally underestimated. We were using empty hooks. Straightened hooks is no depredation. It's not true. Empty hooks are definitely evidence of depredation. And so that changed our ideas of what we needed to do. Our cameras have evolved. We now have GoPros in housings. We put them on long lines. We've yet to capture any more footage of the sperm whale, but we're working towards it. We're also doing this tagging. We've been tagging whales since 2007. We have a published paper on our 07 and 09 data. We have 28 whales that have been tagged. If you go to our website, seaswap.info, all the tag track lines are there. I'm going to talk a little bit more about this later in the week. It's just kind of give you a teaser. We use the small limpet tags, and I'm not going to show this video now. I'll show it later. We have a nice video of in calm water where it's got tagged. These whales are very tricky. There's a reason they're still alive. We can't get close to these whales these days. These are 3 whales that, this is a track line of the whales that went further south. That some of our tag that went, how we know that one went to Baja, one went off the Galapagos, and the other ones have ended up in Baja, California. We're still not quite sure their migratory well, there's no real true migratory destination that I can tell right now. We're not sure really what they're doing. They leave any time of the year they want, June, January, whenever they, we don't have a real good idea of really their seasonal presence. So this is more tag data, and these are 2 whales that were tagged together, and they traveled together, but not together, but acoustically together, and they paralleled each other. They stayed together for months, and so this again gave us more fuel to showing that they have long-term associations and they pal around together, even though it's not your true definition of swimming right next to each other like you might see in a humpback. So where we've come is that we're trying to think like a sperm whale. We're trying to make this work. We're trying to think out of the box. And what are our next steps? We're working on an avoidance right now, and we'll talk about that more later, and we have some other ideas. And over the next few days, we'll just be able to share with you what we've learned over the years and what works and what doesn't, and some of the frustrations, some of the failures, a lot of failures, some promising ideas. So, and that's it. Thanks.